You know, it might start innocently on social media, even. Maybe someone from your past reconnects with you, or you reconnect with them, and it seems inviting to exchange that information, about the family and what you've been doing all these years, which then can lead to information about yourself. And that might seem exciting. Of course, you'll never go too far, right? Or maybe
Maybe.
some new person hits you up in your DMs and it's like instant flirtation and it's really exciting. And while those scenarios don't always lead to trouble, they all have the potential of walking you right to the edge of trouble. Why? Because you find yourself starting to concentrate more on this other person, and it often leads to giving more attention to this other person. And your person, your husband or your wife, starts to look less interesting than more interesting than your spouse. So, pro tip for couples: commit yourself to almost never communicating with the opposite sex without including your spouse on the communication.
It's a good rule of thumb.
Yes, if saying what you are writing to that other person of interest out loud to your spouse, your mother, or your minister would embarrass you, then it's wrong
Yes.
and it's dangerous.
I agree with you, Debster. There is a couple who we are great friends with. We're involved in the marriage ministry together. And she and I cook, and we like to share new recipes with one another.
Good ones.
But we never email or text each other without including one or both of our spouses, because you just can't be too careful.
That's right. You do have to be careful. I know it seems silly in this day and age when everybody's super familiar with one another and friendly, but you need to do this.
That's
It's
true.
important. And if you set that standard early in your marriage, you won't have the kind of problems of, if I'm not feeling really good about myself this week, then I begin to look at things like it's suspicious.
I agree.
So consider this. We find in Scripture that children of God are called to be holy, called to holy living, and not called just to be happy. I know there's a lot of conversation in society these days about God just wants me to be happy. But holiness is an attribute we develop when we seek after God. It's really part of our sanctification process. And if you think about it, happiness depends on something happening. Happiness is a feeling. And all of our feelings are pretty fleeting.
Yes,
Plus,
they are.
our feelings can be pretty deceptive. I may say that I love cake and I may say that I love Greg, but how is he going to know the difference? It can be a little deceptive.
Most likely, if you don't protect yourself and you are committing yourself to seeking your spouse in the way that you act with others of the opposite sex, then you could be walking towards a disconnection, a forerunner of divorce. Take a moment and consider how divorce will affect your children, the people that you influence and that are around you, like family and friends, and just all others around you, maybe neighbors or just people that you don't think are watching your life, but they maybe see what's happening. Divorce is like the death of a small civilization. There's no one left unscathed. As believers, we're instructed to leave our parents, cleave to our spouse, and weave a life together, just like a piece of fabric. And when you have that fabric and you try to pull it apart, you can't get every strand apart and be just like it was before it was woven together.
Right.
And divorce is like ripping of the fabric, and now you have all these ragged edges that can never be put back together. In Matthew 19, it says, "You are now one flesh. And what God has joined together, let no one separate." And that includes you.
Now, if you've received any value today, please like and subscribe.
We're Debster and Greg, and there is hope in your marriage. We love y'all. We want the best for you, because when you have a better marriage,
Your kids will have a better life.